Let's go. And we're live. Hello, hello. That's how it's supposed to go, correct? Lexi, we are live.
Oh, I didn't even hear you. Sorry.
I give you like the minute timer. I give you everything, all the tech difficulties today. Have carried over into
absolutely nothing. I got absolutely nothing. I was just sitting here, and then you guys went absolutely silent. I was like, all right, I'll just sit here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the LJL officially unofficial cast coverage.
Super scuffed version
of the LJL 2020 summer split. I'm your vague host with technical problems that can't do anything with the most, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by Master One in the air. Of course, I'm joined by the illustrious producer himself, as well as color commentator and extraordinaire man himself, Alex, otherwise known as Nymera Hapgood, and his lesser known but rather handsome older brother, Samuel, otherwise known as Initialize Hapgood. Gentlemen, this might be a scuffed version of doing it, but we've still got some games to cover regardless.
We have done. Literally, I've had to set up my entire OBS in about 15 minutes, so if something goes wrong, that's why. But we do have DFM versus Rascal Jester first up on the table here, and I know I missed a lot of games yesterday, but I'm really looking forward to it with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, those were some interesting performances initialized, right?
Yeah, there was second loss for V3, which was pretty impressive against Sengoku as well, who've secured themselves second spot in the league, which means we got a little bit of a taster for our Juggernaut match coming round 2 when we hit that point in playoff. So that was all very exciting, and we sort of saw the Hawks finally get themselves up to looking a little bit more competitive too, which was a bit of an eyebrow raise considering where they were at the beginning of spring and the end of spring and the beginning of summer.
Yeah, and through all of that, we're going to be seeing probably some interesting matchups come through here, but our first game is going to be, as Nymera already mentioned, Detonation FocusMe facing off against the Jesters.
Yeah.
And, well, we can't help but look at the Jesters and go, well, give them hell. Go, give them hell, the Jesters, because this... even though it's against a DFM that's looking slightly out of sorts at the moment, you can't help but think this is like David versus Goliath, but David is just the wind and Goliath is nothingness.
Yes, David who forgot his slingshot, so he actually has to deal with this just...
He actually goes...
Man, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and Goliath actually is just a giant and just looks at him and just tries to squash him.
Yeah, I mean... I think a little bit out of sorts is being a little bit disingenuous. DFM look really out of sorts in like recent weeks. They came back after the break into Super Week and looked pretty rough. We saw Jesters, on the other hand, though, still struggling, still not exactly in fantastic form. We're all aware of where their substitute situation is at and where a lot of their main roster just isn't available to play right now because of visa issues. And that kind of colours things here. We kind of, I suspect, expect DFM to walk away with this one. But you never know with the kind of form DFM is in at the minute.
We had a lot of issues with them over the last couple of weeks. I actually had a VOD review with some other people from around the region, including coach one of the PCS teams. And he was very unsatisfied by the way DFM went for a Renekton comp and then couldn't really do anything with it. You fail your early game win condition, and that kind of snowballs into the rest of the game. Don't even need to VOD review the rest of that. The Renekton failed, so that's kind of it. That was the one versus Burning Core, when Ray Farkey was just having a monstrous game on the GP. So I need to see DFM personally not just draft themselves the win conditions, but actually play towards them as well. There's two parts to it.
Yeah, play towards your win conditions is a term that is as old as gaming itself. When you play competitively, it's actually a term that's used commonly in card games and strategy games to, when you look like you've got no way of winning, place your outs. Yeah. Because at least then you still have a way to win, even if it's a 5% chance. DFM don't even like 5% chances, apparently, at the moment. But unlike their counterparts, they have actually won recently. The Jesters are currently on a 5-0 loss streak. Not the longest one in the LJL, but it's been since week 3. Back when they beat Axis, and that was a very different Axis, in all fairness, to that team. I can't help but feel it. Gentlemen, let's get those hot takes. Who's winning?
I think it has to be DFM, even though I've had some issues with them. Rascal Jesters will not punish DFM like the way they need to.
It has to be DFM, but I think probably to put it on top of that, like, I have to be DFM, and if you want to have hopeful DFM in playoffs, it needs to be DFM winning convincingly.
I will join you both on that one. DFM have to win this, or everything's falling apart, and the sky is purple, and apparently blasts from the past mean nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. The script's out, gentlemen. It doesn't matter. But with that all said, as we are a blast from the past, I will simply count in our two lovely gentlemen, and hopefully everything
will
goes
go fine.
Okay. So, in 3, 2, 1, hit that play button, and gentlemen, take it away.
This has never been more stressful in my life, Sam.
You are doing so well, buddy. Welcome to being a colorcaster and producer at the same time. We are here into pick and ban for our first game of the day here on the LJL Officially Unofficial. That being Detonation FocusMe versus Rascal Jester, and DFM will be taking on the blue side this time out. It'll be Ebby in the top lane, Steel in the jungle, Seros in the mid lane, and of course, Utapon and Gang in the bot lane.
It will be. So, we have ourselves a Karma ban on blue side. That's normally a horrible thing. I hate it when teams do that. First pick it instead of banning it. They're banning an Elise now as well. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I need to introduce the Jesters, but this is really something I need to speak about. The Jesters, who I'm less annoyed at, are Cog, Hatchametcha, Pink, Art, and Nagi. Back to the bans. Why are they banning Elise and Karma on blue side?
They potentially have something they really want to first pick and don't want to give Jesters the chance to go for Karma, I guess.
Yeah, but Karma is probably one of the best first picks in the game. It's really not worth it banning it on the blue side in terms of most accepted opinion. The Elise, I can kind of get that because blue side has a lot more flexibility to ban away comfort champions and things which have been shown recently. Hatchametcha on the Jesters versus CGA really made them struggle, made them sweat. If you first pick Nah, I'm just turning off the stream.
Well, it is something that Ebby has really gone to when he needs the comfort.
Okay,
Instead, they go towards set, and that is that 5-way flex. It has been a first pick priority, even with all the nerfs that have come through over the recent patches. Very strong, and especially if you don't want to give away the Karma and still want to go for something like the set, I see that logic. Over for the Jesters, though, they go towards that other very high priority pick of Volibear. Has suffered in the LJL in the jungle, but I know the likes of the LEC pros reckon that Volibear is the strongest dueling jungler in the game right now.
He also tower dives very well, works as a frontline, even from behind, which is a big thing. You know, you don't have to have all the gold in the world, but if you do, you can, as you said, outduel most of your opponents. Having the Nautilus there too means that it's not just the solo frontline, you have that Bash brother to go with them, plus Nautilus is a strong laning pick. It's a very high value pick in general. You know what's better than Nautilus though? Karma's really good. You know, you could have first picked that instead of banning it.
Well, there is the insta-lock Camille from DFM, though.
Camille Galio.
Alongside the Galio, DFM know exactly what they want in this draft phase by the looks of it.
They do, and as much as this does neutralize a lot of the flex pick opportunities, because you know that the Camille's going top lane means that the set won't be there, there's still some flexibility from the DFM draft to put that Galio to support, or of course put that set mid, jungle, or support himself.
Yeah, it's still a 2-way flex at this point. Just because it's not a 5-way flex doesn't mean it's not a flex still, of course. It's one of those ridiculous strengths of the pick. It is the Renekton lock-in here for the Jesters. Renekton has largely been seen as a pretty damn good counter into Camille, at least early on. Have to see how Cog pulls this one out, assuming, of course, it is going towards that top lane.
So Renekton with the Empowered W stops dashes. If you try and hookshot away or you try and hookshot in, Renekton stops that. And what the other thing about Camille is that if you hit with that hookshot, it means you don't get the increase. If you don't hit with it, you don't get the increased attack speed, which means that yeah, it's very good for just winning out those trades. However, of course, Camille does bring that insane late game splitting potential, and of course that backline dive as well in a way that Renekton can't quite bring that same amount.
Yes, absolutely not. It's definitely a bit difficult, though the Jesters have locked in mostly frontline there. That's, as we've kind of said, they've got a lot of beef balls in. They've got a fair amount of engage, even if it's not the easiest to reach backline. Nautilus offers a fair amount in there.
I'm very surprised that that's the Sejuani ban.
I'm Yes, me too.
Oh
but
no,
it,
Pink does play Renekton mid.
But
though,
exactly
correct?
that.
Okay,
Yes,
alright.
he does.
So potentially that would have been Volibear top, Sejuani jungle, and just have. But that would leave you with a one threat comp.
Yeah.
So what would be the one threat you ban away from Rascal Jesters? I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe like.
Well, they've banned away a lot of their own AD carries here, because I would have thought Callista Nautilus would have been a go-to. But instead they ban out that. I'm assuming perhaps looking for a Caitlyn here?
But they have. Potentially, yeah, but Caitlyn can get shut down by Camille Galio. I don't. I potentially the Carther's bot, apparently. Apparently that's what they've been working up to. Or they're just banning away another jungle champion at this point.
I think it probably is, but I suppose there's a flexibility on that ban.
There's Ashe, there's on-hit Varus. Who else can solo carry? Jinx?
Caitlyn's the one I think Art would go to. It's one he's gone to before. It's one he's liked to index into, and that would be the Kennen lock, and that probably is going to be Pink on the Renekton mid, we assume.
I think it kind of has to be at this point. You have the flex between jungle and top, but the cannon's now into top, so that will be a Volibear jungle. No Nautilus shenanigans going elsewhere. And you're kind of left with this really one-dimensional team from Rascal Jester. You're looking for lane control into these very big teamfight initiations, but not a great deal of skirmishing power besides that Volibear, really. The Ashe being locked in and then also still having to deal with the set is really annoying for Rascal Jester's comp. It's not easy to remove any of these DFM champions. With Leona locked in too, it's Ashe or bust. Can you get to the backline? Can you kill the AD carry?
And speaking of killing the AD carry, Nagi hovering a Caitlyn for Art. But with a Camille, Galio, an Ashe Arrow, a Leona, that's quite a lot of ways to get onto that Galio as well. You can see the Cleanse Summoner spell already on Art, and I think you may need to use that a few times.
But you can't cleanse the Hextech Ultimatum. That's one of the big problems in this game. Of course, you can cleanse stuff like the Solar Flare and the Zenith Blade. That will be very important. DFM have themselves that very, very dedicated engage button of the Camille with the Galio, but then they also have 2 or 3 other options too. I like how DFM have given themselves multiple ins into a fight, plus they have multiple carries they can go towards. Galio is not a primary carry, but however, if he does get that Vector in with either the Set or even the Leona, and then of course the Camille as well, he puts enough damage on top. So actually the Set Galio combo can remove someone. The Camille Galio could definitely remove 1 or 2 people. And it's not just the Ashe needing to clean up teamfights in a position which Utapon has had to put himself into for multiple times this split. I'm just aware that we have a bit of a break with these casters now, but we don't have the scene set up to look at us.
No, we don't.
We have
new production problem. There we go.
So we have team comps instead. Thank the Lord, you don't have to worry
No,
about
look at that. Okay.
Oh my
so
word.
I'm looking at the Jesters, and it is big time wombo combo. Can we get our engage onto the Ashe? Kennen's a pretty good flanker from that front, and if Art can stay safe in the back line, you can do a lot. DFM 4-1 with kind of the ability to bring Camille into a team fight.
For sure. They have okay 1-3-1. Galio can clear inside lane 2. Problem is, if you go into a 1-3-1, the Galio can get shut down by the Volibear roaming to his lane with any of these solo laners. There's going to be a wave clear trade in mid lane. I think that DFM win that because you can very quickly collapse from your 1-3-1 into either that Set or the Camille coming in and giving that Galio again that Vector. So I do like what DFM have done with their comp. It's better than we've seen from them beforehand in terms of the previous weeks, in terms of them, not drafting disengaged into a very telegraphed engaged composition, stuff like that, very basic errors. This has given them a plethora of options. It still has pretty strong laning phase. The Ashe is notably pretty good into the Caitlyn. And then, of course, the mid lane's probably going to be a bit of a wash.
I also have to put out, on a personal level, that I am really happy to see Evie back on Camille. Yes. It has been
a while. It's been a hot minute.
Time. This guy was a fantastic Camille in seasons past. He's just not pulled it out much this year.
Production, could you maybe go have a hunt for the last Ebby Camille game? Because I can't remember it off the top of my head.
And it's been a very, very long time. Looking here at some of the team stats, though, it's fairly decent ones, all said and things, for DFM. They're not top of the rankings, but like 3rd at goal difference at 15, 3rd at experience difference at 15, decent vision score. But the one that really stresses a lot of DFM fans out will be those bot stats for both squads. Win percentage with a major lead at 15. 0% for Rascal Jesters and paltry 55% for DFM.
Youngster Joey from the Pokemon series.
Yes.
You know that trainer with the
top percentage Rattata.
the top percentage Rattata. This is the bottom percentage Jester. It's like, wow, have you seen my early game stats? Rascal Jester wants to battle. He keels over and dies horribly at 15 minutes.
Oh, that is something. And Jesters just have had a really rough time in lane, if nothing else, and it really shows in that golden XP difference. They tend to very much suffer in that 10 to 15 minute, 0 to 15 minute mark is what I was trying to get to, but there we go. On the other side, though, you can see DFM have largely had good early games, at least getting advantage. But they consistently throw around third Drake, second Herald, all of that kind of situation.
The individual prowess of DFM does show itself in the early game. They managed to get laning advantages, particularly in top lane on Ebby, even when he probably shouldn't. One of the things this split is that hasn't really transferred to all champions. For instance, is Wukong going down very far in lane in like matches where it shouldn't really be.
That far.
And I know that DFM have drafted themselves. They've done a couple of diametrically opposed things. They've tried to draft entirely for late game with no priority in the early lanes. They've done loads of winning early lanes with no late game win condition because their team comp doesn't come together. I'm wondering now whether this is the halfway house, which is the perfect kind of place for them to be in, where they do have some early game pressure. They have that jungler in the set, which can affect the lanes early in a way that some lanes can't.
Ashe is pretty good priority.
Ashe is pretty good priority. Camille can trade up onto a cannon. That's more of a skill matchup, but you give Yebby the skill matches because you trust in that guy. But they also have very dedicated go buttons and side lanes to play around in that late game. Aren't we looking great today?
Aren't we? Yeah, look, we have
Look how
transformed into the Japanese cast as we're providing voices and are clearly lip synced in glorious HD.
I'm not sure I could lip sync that.
Neither could I. I could do the nodding. It's been a little while. I did get a serious tick doing that when I lived in Japan for a while because it's such a common way of communicating, style of communicating. Just nods are a thing.
The last time Ebby played Camille was in spring 2019 versus Crash Gaming Act. So
wow,
it's been a while. It has been over a year. It has been a while. You've been saying.
I have to say, I'm quite glad to see him pull it back out. It's been a high priority top laner for a while, and Ebby has honestly been behind the curve when it comes to top laners that are in meta over the last few weeks and patches. But finally seeing this guy back on Camille should at least give some hope for DFM. That said, if he's not played it since 2019 spring, might be a reason for that. We'll have to wait and see how this guy performs on the champion.
You know what's really glorious about this, having the stream our end? We actually get the 60 FPS stream on our side.
Beautiful.
We can
it's
play
beautiful.
by play without missing half the skill shots.
Like, it's one of those things where you just sort of have to guess and say, going in, yes.
The grey blob kills the other slightly grey blob.
There's a minor stutter. Yeah, all of that jazz.
Yes. Either way, it's been a trial and a tribulation, but we are into the last 4 games of the regular split.
I know. It's a bizarre thought. We are nearly done with the summer split on our inaugural year, casting all of this jazz here for the LJL. Looking in here at some of our keystones, nothing super surprising, but the grasp on Camille is a choice.
No, there are 2 things. The grasp on Camille is becoming more common because it allows you to trade in the early game.
Yes.
And bluntly, it just gives you a lot of really good runes from the resolve tree to survive early lane, right? You get stuff like that Shield Bash, which is really good when you get your passive and then auto-attack after. Very good for your trading. The Grasp having that proc as well means that you can auto-attack minions, run around, particularly once you get that Phage with the extra movement speed to walk forward and get that auto-attack for that Grasp too. Lethal Tempo on Caitlyn, it's not the fleet footwork, less kiting, less ability to disengage.
Speaking of not being able to disengage, Gang lands a pretty nice Zenith Blade at level 1 that puts Art in a horrific position early in this lane.
Yeah, 400 health casually traded at level 1 with the Zenith Blade, not even having that Shield Bash from the Leona. Of course, I just sealed Shield Bash the rune because I can't actually remember what Leona's Q ability is called. Shield of Daybreak. That's the one.
Yep.
Hey, I remember looking at that recently. The other thing is that we do have Aftershock and Galio. It's not Spellbook. This is patch 10.14. Another Zenith Blade barely misses from Gang onto Art. That would have been a very dangerous moment for them. What this does mean is that it opens up Saros to be a lot tankier as a frontline initiator and allow him to get stuck in there a lot more quickly. Alongside the Set and the Leona, they don't have that top lane full tank, which really has the stats to be your solo frontline. Oh,
Another
it's
one. Gang is just landed all of them. Forces a cleanse out early on in this lane as well. And Art is in a difficult position right now.
I'm going to throw it out there. Nagi, you have to be body blocking. Well, you can't body block the Zenith Blade, but you have to be blocking for your AD carry and be ready to turn it around. When did you see a hook thrown out there? When did you see someone rooted in place and a turnaround come through? Art is basically laning 1v2 for the early stages of this.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't look pretty on Art's end, but it is a 2v2 lane, and bluntly, your tanky Nautilus with all of that CC...
Has to put in the work.
Has to put in some work, and I've seen nothing from him so far. We'll have to see where it works out, but for all that we're saying yikes for Art, there's a little bit more behind the scenes which is making it look worse for him.
Hooray! We got the flaming down already. Scuttle's being traded around the map, Steel taking the bot one, Volibear taking the top one, and if you're taking bot Scuttle against a Caitlyn has been drained down onto, and Art having to blow his cleanse early. You can see there's already a 13 CS lead, and Cull put in for the Ashe because she feels no pressure in this lane. This Caitlyn and the way she's meant to play out this game is already under threat.
Well, under threat is one thing, down 10 plus CS is another. Of course, there
Under
is
pressure.
a wave there to pick up, and I'm sure that will even out to a certain extent, probably 5 or so down, depending on how well the farm is. But it's not a good space early on, as we said. So Kate wants to be pushing up, wants to be putting pressure down.
It could be a tad better.
Could be a tad better. The most British way of phrasing that possible. But it's done. Hachimecha here, just farming up his Gromp. Not really found a lot early on, but... Bertha.
Yes. So
Bertha's dead.
But
Got murdered brutally by a bear in the jungle, didn't you hear? Tactical sweep lands from Ed, just trading forwards. But
you just lead an aside into something else, so I just have no reason to respond.
You told me a name, and I just want you to be brutally murdered. Why would you do that? I could have lived happily knowing that. Well, actually, I might have to take this back because Cog takes a really nasty trade, and Ebby nearly lands that very long range hook shot.
Does get the grasp trade in there for the last bit too. Yeah, Ebby doing pretty well into what is known as a lane bully of the cannon. Doing all right there.
Yeah, the ranged versus melee matchup as well. You expect certain things from that. It is the double armor from Cannon early, but actually changes his mind and goes straight towards the Cull. Will now teleport back to lane.
I guess he just thinks, well, we're not fighting for this point in the game. Let's just go do something else for a while. Yeah, I think that one thing which is important to touch on, because we're talking about that cannon and all this other stuff, we talked about how DFM do have a very heavy dive comp. That is very obvious. They are telegraphing what they're going to do with their composition. With that, we have a bit of a standoff between the two junglers, but it's just a bit of sky splitting, a little bit of ward clearing. But diving into a cannon in the late game will be potentially very, very dangerous.
Well, Hachimecha needs to be very wary there as Gang started wandering up, but cancels the recall, is paying attention, not too busy shopping. And end of that, we're seeing relatively even things all said and done across most lanes, apart from that bot lane where there is that 10 CS deficit.
You can see what Hachimecha wants to do, try and bail out his bot lane, but Steel is reading it, and now he doesn't want to land the hook. I think that's a good decision.
And yeah, again, bluntly, if Steel just there and shielding, then that's a win for DFM, because that bot lane is still in dire straits and the junglers get nothing done.
I agree. We have Pink going towards the Black Cleaver on this Renekton, and that will be buffing up the Caitlyn because she is, as we've said before, that single carry. Aftershock comes out on Galio. This is why it's really annoying. If you taunt someone, you get that huge burst of extra resistances. It's not quite as much as last season if you're not building resistances yourself, but you can see the Seeker's Arm Guard has already come in against the majority AD physical damage from Rascal Jesters. The Aftershock buffs up your passive, which means that all of your autos do extra damage in the duration of that. So you get that smash, gives you an extra 30-40 damage on that attack, even at early levels.
Attempted drag and start there from Jesters, but a quick roam up from Steel and Gang dissuades the Jesters from continuing on that particular plan of action, and Steel will now wander in with the backs and well, back to lanes rather than straight backs from Rascal Jesters, and it was a cull back for Ashe here, who did manage to get that early back in, has got herself a couple more pots, and quite happy thus far in this lane.
Farming up that cull really quickly too. That's going to be topped off in like 5 minutes or so from now.
Pretty nice and early, actually.
It's very, very early, and then once you get Ashe with... The thing is, though, like, this is the thing which DFM have had a real problem with. They've just ended up putting this huge burden of carry-out plays from Utapon, because he has been the one guy that's consistently been able to put out damage, even in losing situations. This isn't that kind of game. He doesn't have to have that same kind of burden. Potentially with that extra space to work with on the Ashe, he'll have a more comfortable game.
Okay, so on that, Ash, having a bit of a comfortable game. There is a taunt in onto Pink, who went in with the slice. Steel was kind of just off the back end of that screen, but nothing more to be seen. Top side of this map has been relatively quiet, all things said and done, since probably the last thing we saw that was super exciting was Ebby getting a decent grasp trade onto Kennen, who is currently
I
running that
don't
spell.
even think that the camera's panned back over to top lane since then.
No, exactly. And it's Cull versus Sheen. It is Ignite, of course, for Cog at the minute, but that's because he's got Spellbook and used his teleport earlier. It
It's,
can be really irritating to fight into Spellbook.
Interesting that it's not the Tiamat first from the Camille. I guess he knows he wants to be playing a little bit with less jungle attention from Steel. Hachimecha is going to find Steel saying of that.
It's level 6.
Whoa,
There
they're
is the
going
chilling
really deep for this.
smite, but the smite from Steel as well to get the Nimbus Cloak of himself, and can't quite find the engage they were looking for. You can see Renekton rapidly roaming over, but remember, Seros did have Hero's Entrance, so it
Well,
would
that's
have
the
ended
thing,
up in
right?
it would have ended up in
So
a 2v2.
I think what Hachimetra is saying is, look, I got the back off more recently than you. It's not in the top lane.
And here is that Galio engage as well. Cog gets knocked up, gets taunted, and that will be first blood to Camille. It wasn't even hard.
It wasn't hard. Hachimetra was spotted out by Steel. They know that Bear will not be able to reach the top lane in time. Seros gets a free ultimate combo onto Cog. He doesn't burn summoners because he can't. It wouldn't have worked. The hero's entrance goes straight into the middle of that Hextech ultimatum. There's no escape. First kill to DFM.
And they will roam up for the Herald as well. And with a 4v5 situation, you have to assume they can't mess this one up. Then again, it's been spoiled by DFM before. And Hachimecha walks into 3. That was, I was going to say clean as can be from DFM because it rhymed. But bluntly, that was just really bad from Hachimecha.
Yeah, you don't have your top laner there. Pink is not roaming over either. You have zero vision. You know that people are not in lanes, so they're likely on something like the Herald unless there's been some random quadruple reset in terms of going back to base. That's a misjudgment by Hachimecha. Costs his team an extra kill and a set of double buffs too.
It does. That'll be more assist gold.
Oh,
on the
don't
money.
replay the Herald. Okay, it's the top lane killing.
Top lane. All right.
Like, we already saw that. It was a sad experience.
Just walks up for a tack sweep. It's not even a hook shot.
But look at the minimap, right? Hachimecha is taking Scuttle. He knows. Well, the rest of the team knows that. Well, Cog should know that he's not safe there. He is not safe indeed, and he goes down very, very easily. It's not even really much of a contest.
The one small consolation for Rascal Jester at the end of that was that
2
Zeros
ounces
wasn't
gone.
in lane, so
Yeah.
Pink got some free time to get some additional CS and got himself 10 CS lead. Congratulations. That's it.
Congrats!
right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. So yeah, I mean, at least they get rid of the Camille and the Galliolts, but the Camille ult's coming back up, and the Galliol is a long cooldown. I'll give you that. Galliol was nerfed in previous seasons after season 8 when it was so season 7 rather, when Faker was using it to get to the World Finals and unfortunately bomb out of that tournament. Because now it means that in the late game, the Galliol isn't there for every single engage, and much like that in the early game, it is very much not there either.
So, Herald and inventory for Steel. They're 2-0 up. They've got themselves about 8,000 goldie at the 10-minute mark. That's a hook shot on, but not going to find too much more. Gets the tack sweep down as well. And, yeah, traded back a little bit there with the Shuriken's range advantage does come through.
And this is the thing: if you get Camille into a place where she can trade aggressively with her passive on cooldown and her hookshot on cooldown, then she can win a lot of matchups. We say the same thing about Gangplank. That's the big matchup for Camille. It's a skill matchup, but if you are set up to succeed, you can end up trading very, very heavily. When you've got stuff like Grasp in there too, and the Shield Bash means that your short trades when you're working on the cooldowns of those timers as well, does mean that Camille has a lot of big trading potential. How's the Phase 2 going in again? Look at it.
There we go. Another one in. There is a slicing Maelstrom. Flash out from Cog, but Flash face break. It doesn't need to stun because there is a lot of damage. There's the Hextech ultimatum to dodge some of that damage. Ebby trying to get out. The Flash will turn it around. Hachimecha is there for this one. And with the Stormbringer running, he's going to run Steel out. It's the 1-for-1 in the end. Both top laners fall down, but Hachimecha burn. Sorry, not Hachimecha. Cog and Hachimecha, I apologize, both burn Flash.
DFM, top jungle, made one really good play and one really bad play. The one really good play was dodging the Volibear ultimate with the Camille ultimate. That's nice. Then using the showstopper onto the unstoppable target of the Volibear, who's also ulting. Not so nice. Teleport coming in now. Oh, Steel's already killed him.
Well, 1-for-1 trade in there. There was no...
Run away!
Cog's like, I was going to turn up, but it was just too late. And Steel knows he had the damage there. The 1-2 punch maybe forgives the sins of using the showstopper a little inelegantly in that last fight.
Pikachu used Volt Switch. Just gets the hell out of dodge. Doesn't want to be there after all. Really, really close. But as I was saying, Steel ends up using the Showstopper in the earlier trade. Fortunately, onto the ulting Volibear. Gang gets the Zenith Blade, doesn't end up leading into anything. The hook out from Nagi. Bot lane, it has retained that early CS advantage for Utapon and Gang, but it's not led to anything more.
Yeah, maybe extended about 5 or so, about 15 from the 10 mark it was at, but that's kind of generous depending on where waves end up in the next few moments. But I completely agree. It's 4-1 of the kill score, though. It is now 8,500 gold lead for DFM, who after that debacle in the top side.
Look what Art was doing there. He was standing on top of his traps in case a in case a Zenith Blade came in. So Leona would immediately get trapped up. And potentially be able to cleanse away and taking a really good trade. I like this. It's the small things about Caitlyn which people don't necessarily realize. Because Caitlyn is one of, your beginner training wheel champions because you have that such huge attack range. Saros is going in. Herald is already mid. Pink is going to hit it before. It hit the eye before it does get that charge off, so not the full damage from it. But even so, the wave's been pushed in. DFM heading towards this Cloud Dragon, and DFM, their early stats are really good. They're going for another fight early in.
Oh no, that's the Solar Flare down. Hachimecha caught out. I think that was blind as well. We'll have to look back in the replay, but well played. And actually, they're going to try and chase down Nagu. Cancels his recall, but we'll be able to waddle his way around that corner and dredge line to tower.
And he waddles away. 2 dragons to DFM, a Cloud Dragon, a Mountain Dragon, and it's an Ocean Rift rolling high. They are going to have a lot of pseudo-tanky members who can sustain through the longer fights with the likes of a Death Stance onto a Camille. And of course that Haymaker buying so much time for the set as well. So Ocean Dragon, really, really good for the team of DFM. Really bad news for Rascal Jester, who will need to find some really big team fights around this cannon, around these 2 AoE brawlers of the Renekton and the Volibear too.
Indeed, and you can sort of see that the plate money was pretty damn even. In fact, it was even. It was 2 plates in bot, 1 plate in top. 2 plates in top. Well, let me rephrase that. 3 plates overall. We won't do it lane by lane because it's not as mirrored as I was thinking it was in my head.
It's like, wow, look at all these comparisons. Wait, no, they're not.
They're not.
Wow, look at these non-comparisons.
Yeah, it's basically where I set myself up for failure there. Cog gets the stun, but the Hextech ultimate is there, but the Galio ult now coming in as Hachimecha engaged. Ebby gets another hook shot, and Cog goes down. That's the knock-up on a Hachimecha, who's now trying to get onto Ebby, but the tack sweep slows him down. And now Steel is here as well, and the Volibear gets face broken into the ground. Another 2-0 for DFM on the top side.
Pink's going to get traded onto as well. Ebby comes back with the Triforce, and you see the damage that happens. Comes with that, with the Precision Protocol Q auto resets, which give you that transformation, that one conversion. Even better.
It's not done yet.
Oh, that's transferring it into a kill.
Well, not quite the Zonya's, the stopwatch.
No!
For Nagi, who gets face broken and Haymaker. Steel, how the hell did you end up there?
Steel Hex flashes over the wall. Nagi flashes into him to make sure that the stun comes through onto Art. Nagi goes down. It's a number of ultimates used, just as we were riffing about how DFM were playing really well, and in particular Ebby as well. But we need to talk about Steel. This guy's turned up to every play. A lot of it is Rascal Jester still trying to commit to fights around the top side, where Cog should just never be pushing up. If you don't have priority in the mid lane and you can't punish, you cannot make these kind of plays. Look, Cog, the wave is in a horrible state here. You can't walk up. You know that Saros has just left lane. Hachimecha is there, but it doesn't matter. You know that Galliol is going to have more impact than a roaming Volibear, and that's exactly what happens. The fight goes in DFM's favor.
Just to put this out there, Pink saw the channel from Galio. He could have flash stunned.
Potentially, yeah. I don't know whether that was down, but yeah, he might have been using it to clear a ward. Maybe that's why they went. We'd need Pro View for that.
We'd need Pro View for that. You hear us, Riot?
Tabs over to Lolly Sports.
Give us that Pro View. We'll be able to stream it, but we'll be able to go find out for you. It's the more important thing. Either way, the Galio got into that fight, and it did end up in a 2-0, as everyone was kind of running past each other in the river to get to top lane first.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I want to ask your opinion on this. Because obviously, as the DFM fan amongst us,
hello,
right?
Because I try not to cast it too biased, but yeah,
for sure.
Right.
No, but it's but there is something to be said about casting unbiasedly, but then also being able to just be a fan of the game as well, because that's part of our fun in this game. Ebby, just how much hope does this give you from DFM, even though they're against Rascal Jesters and they are a bottom tier team? But what are you feeling about DFM from these first 17 minutes?
Well, at least the way they're setting up around Herald, like looking for the pick before they go for it, gives me some hope. The fact that Ebby's on Camille and looking good on it gives me some hope. That said, it is against the Jesters, and everything comes with a grain of salt. And you don't rush anything. I would want to see how they perform against CGA next, as Cog has to try and flash out, and
solo killing him.
Still finds him. There's the solar flare. There's the haymaker. Gang will pick up the kill. At least the Jesters will get first turret for themselves on the bot side, but with Herald in inventory on the top side, I don't think that turret score will remain even for all that long. Maybe Jesters can push in the mid lane and get a little bit more, but the arrow onto Nagi, the teleport in mid lane, is going to force a rapid retreat out of the Jesters, but Galio, pretty damn fast with that home goal, gonna find some more damage, but his second dredge line is pretty good, but still in the backline is here. It's gonna get knocked up, but Ebby is here. The Hextech Ultimatum is here, and Art and Nagi are not. They are off the rift, they are dead, and it will be DFM with a pretty hard force on that, but coming away with 2.
Commit the double teleports, get a double kill and a turret in the outer, in the mid lane, that outer mid lane turret going down. Very important against a Caitlyn because she does wave clear for so long in extended games. This will buy them a first crack at this dragon as well, spawning that would get them onto Soul Point, and everything is going DFM's way. This is one of these times where DFM have had the early game stats. That's great, but they're taking the fights to push them further forwards in the game, and they're doing it to their win condition. This is the textbook which we needed DFM to read from so much of this split.
Have Jesters made it hard? Not especially, but this is what we wanted to see. Now Hachimecha is going in, maybe trying to turn this one around. The showstopper out onto pink is good news, but Hachimecha going to try and steal it, but can't get it, and dies as well. It is a 2-0, and now Ocean Soul Point for DFM, and they're hunting for more. The traps will force a bit of a sidestep, but now Cog is caught under the tower. He has no hope. He's got a Slicing Maelstrom and a Dream. He's not even going to channel it. He's dead again, and Seros picks it up.
Aftershock on the Galio means that he can tank turret first, and then uses E to get out of dodge. He doesn't even need to use that ability in the initial dive. 3-man dive coming through. 0 and 5 is Cog, who has been that shining light for Rascal Jester in so many games. It's just not been enough. They're sat at 2 and 10. Going back to that replay, where are we starting? Looks like it's the Ashe arrow onto Nagi in the mid lane. Set up by Utapon. This guy loves his Ashe for this reason. It allows him to have his own agency as and where to take the fights. Seros has his mobility from the move speed you get from the teleport coming in. Art has a decent trap, but then is cancelled from the 90 caliber net going over the wall. It wouldn't have mattered anyway, though, because the Hextech Ultimatum pins him in place. The Galio ult comes through, and Caitlyn, who might have been able to put out some damage there, doesn't get a single chance to.
And I thought that teleport from Ebby was a long, long way away, but then I remembered it's Camille, and Hookshot is a quite powerful ability when it comes to traversing these, but we're going out of replay into a fight. Hachimecha is getting a shield and just about survives. That was about as clutch as it gets as a shield comes.
59 HP.
But Ebby was hunting there at the end of that. 59 HP was...
Might have been even less than that. I only checked in like half a second after he's got that damage, and he does regen a fair bit.
Yeah, Volleyball certainly does. He is feeling a little bit fortunate to be alive there, all things said and done. Does get to walk away though, but DFM once again prevent a siege in the mid lane going towards their tower, and
such immaculate vision control. They use double pink wards on Baron.
They do. That's what else would you use double pink wards for?
Well, nothing. That would be the point.
Yeah, no, well, they're certainly not in inventory. Why would you want to keep them there?
The only time you do the double pink ward thing and it doesn't even work out is when someone is killing your pink ward and then you... Oh, wait. Killing the pink ward in the top lane in Cog.
Yeah, he gets showstopper out. He's going to go golden. We'll have a Slicing Maelstrom, but the Haymaker is timed pretty well, and Cog just gets to go nowhere. Hachimecha is coming in with a shield, is doing some damage onto Steel, but now they run away. That is a flash dredge line onto Seros, who's in a spot of bother. Have DFM gone too deep? That's the cancel on Heroic Entrance. It's now a 1-for-1. Now at the back end of the fight, Hachimecha steaming forwards onto Unipon is really low. That is a good face breaker to buy time, but Steel will go down as well. Shut down onto the set. 2-for-1. DFM go too deep.
They go too deep, and yeah, the shutdowns are pretty good. Utapon makes it out alive, but only barely. Is this going to be one of these 20 to 25 minute fights, which DFM have had quite a lot of in this split, rather, which cost them a large objective? Rascal Jesters do not keep on going for it. They have their own low health bars themselves, and Ebby turns back up in that mid lane, has himself an item and a half. They didn't want to risk it, and they don't end up taking the Baron. So at the end of it, it's some shutdowns, but nothing else really.
Art's now in trouble. That 90 caliber net was bloody clutch.
Close stuff.
Kept him out of range there. Well played, Art. We've seen some of those little mechanical moments from him, or at least the thought process. We're going to go back through this replay and we can talk about art later.
This is, yes, the death of a pink ward. Lots of CC coming up. Decent stopwatch. Manages to dodge out a number of abilities and blow plenty of things. Ebby doesn't cancel the TP. He doesn't see it coming. And then the flash kick from Nagi, as much as we've criticized him for his laning phase, does start off this very well. The Galio ult gets cancelled. Utopon's kiting back, but then Hatchamacha gets right on top of him and stops him standing and firing. Steel has to be the rear guard for the last part of this fight. Tries to turn around for a kill onto the Nautilus. Doesn't end up working. And Cog, no!
Oh, he can't be anywhere. And Steel will get vengeance for him turning around that last fight.
Steel uses his body to help farm Gromp. He uses the damage from Showstopper to try and damage Gromp.
You've seen that you've got this polar bear on the one side. The other side is the elbow drop bear of Set.
Oh my word, yeah.
Yeah, drop bears, the elbow drop bear. Set doing a lot of work on this game. 6-1 and 7. Steel has been pretty damn fantastic in this game, all things said and done. Found some pretty ingenious Hextech flash engages. And yes, again, we've said it's not been all that hard. Jesters have been in positions they really shouldn't have been. But DFM, you take those balls when they're thrown at you. And currently, 16 kills to 3, 44k to 37.
We don't have
you feel pretty happy.
Any of the ball champions in the game. No Syndra, no Orianna.
What we do have is an Ocean Drake spawning in under 15 seconds, and that would be Ocean Soul for DFM, which would certainly not be fun for the Jesters. You're completely right.
Yeah, the question for Rascal Jesters now is, you can't give up the soul, that's pretty much game over, but can you steal the dragon whilst also not losing a fight so badly that it gives up Baron and pretty much the game?
Good question. Look at Kennen, he has 2 items. Look at Renekton, 2 items. 2 items on Caitlyn as well. That's a pretty damn good spike. DFM are caught between their third items. They're not there yet. Camille hasn't even quite reached her second because she stopped off for the Tiamat, which means that maybe in terms of relative power, you're about as close to going in. Steel is going in though. The Galio ultimate is also following in. That's going to be the knock-up. Decent engage to the backline, but the exhaust buys time.
Ash is down.
Utopon is dead though, even through the exhaust. It's a 1-for-1 thus far, but now Pink and the rest of Jesters are going to try and retreat. Maybe Jesters can now start up this Ocean Drake. Steel pretty low, but will get regenning pretty fast. Gang going to try and walk forwards. That bush will find the bait onto Gang. He gets some stuns up. Does get out with the flash. Ebby in the backline trying to find more. Gets onto Pink. Is trying to fire away as well. Gets one, but will not find more. And this Camille is monstrous. That was a triple at the end of that.
In any other situation, any other draft, that Caitlyn might have just saved the game. Rascal Jester shut down the AD carry whilst theirs survives on full HP. But Ebby saves this fight for DFM in turn. He shuts down Art, gets right on top of him, uses the bushes to make sure he isn't being auto-attacked to death. And this replay will be something to go over indeed. It's not a bad engage by Steel. He ends up getting Galio right into the backline and gets the knock-up onto 2. But Cog gets right on top of Ash. There's an exhaust. It doesn't matter. Pink does some work too. It's just a little too late. The first couple of ticks of damage and that W comes through for that full burst. And then Art is managing to reset. Hatchamecha, way too low HP to keep continuing on this fight. Pink thinks he has enough to continue though. Gang flashes out at the very last possible moment. And then we have to look at Art. What's he doing? He's trying to take down on his last couple of auto attacks onto Steel. He doesn't have the damage to take down Ebby. He tries to take down someone else and does end up finishing off Saros. At least that's some extra gold over to him as well. His first kill of the game, in fact. But it's just too little too late, and Ocean Soul is now in the back pocket of DFM.
A little bit of wallet whacking going on there for DFM.
Wallet whacker.
Jesters found a pretty good engage. Credit to Cog, who's had a rough time in lane, but that was a good engage onto the backline for Utopon. And a little bit of clutch there for Hatchametra escaping that initial engage with some health bar remaining, but still returned the favour in the second one when Art couldn't quite secure that kill onto the set. Either way, it is now 21 kills to 5. That Camille now has her second item complete and is on her way to a death dance and has stopwatch in inventory. This is a hard spot. Those third items are now coming in for DFM. It is 3 items for Ash in the way it wasn't in that last fight. And the fight that was probably as even as you were going to get between items there is just not the case anymore.
There's a 2-level advantage in jungle. There is no vision for Rascal Jester besides in that tri-brush, and that ain't nearly close enough. Blue Trinket gets dropped onto Baron, but this is now only at 5,000 HP. This is not going to be a steal. This is just Baron over to DFM.
And I'm not sure they even know it's happening right now. There's a stun again. Hachimecha can't find his way there. The Solar Flare will miss after a slice over the wall, but now Nagi, slowed down by Ash, is forced to flash away from Steel, who was powering toward him with a knuckle down. But that's the Ashel. It's body blocked by Hachimecha, but he's popped back. He will now Stormbringer away. He went to Stormbreaker, and I'm thinking that's the Alex Rider book. I'm sure they would wish for a teenage super spy to offer them a way out of an impossible situation in this one, but for now...
Your secret gadgets will be a 2-level advantage in the jungle and a top laner on the enemy team that's gone 0 and 8.
That sounds like your
Wow, this is the best equipment I've ever been given for a super spy mission.
Somewhere out there, Q is screaming in rage, but Nagi will not find the Dread Sign. Ebby will clear out this Warden with the Baron buff. Push continuing. This top lane turret is
even more fitting because they're not allowed to have guns, and the only gun is on Caitlyn on the enemy team. They don't need it.
No guns, no mid tower. Top tower sure to fall fairly certainly as well. Demolition certainly seems to be the aim of the game here for DFM, even if they're not there with guns. Bow and arrow seems to be doing just as good work. Ebby finds out a Cog. One precision protocol, half health to Kennen. That will be pink in the backline. Goes golden, does Cog. But now that is burned, and the Haymaker's true damage will secure that kill. They're pushing in. They've got 2 for none already. Seros in the backline on Nagi. Will get a knockup. Will get the aftershock. Art will fall to the winds of war. It's a double for Camille, moving to 7-1. And I believe 10 on that Camille. 8-1 and 13 on set. And DFM will close out this game in 28 minutes, and it wasn't close.
There was maybe one hint of life for Rascal Jesters in that game, but it wasn't nearly enough. And to go recount our thoughts on that game, as always, we are going to go on a quick break, and we'll see you shortly. And we're back.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial, bringing you that coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split. Gentlemen, we witnessed Team Detonation FocusMe have a dominant performance over the Rascal Jesters. And in all seriousness, that game wasn't really that close, was it, gentlemen?
Vintage DFM, to a point. They
7 weeks, but we got here.
Yeah, I mean, the gold was always in their pocket. Everything went well right from the off, and yeah, a confidence booster for the DFM Warriors we had.
And obviously, it comes with the caveat this was against the Jesters who've just been struggling and looked, honestly, a little defeated in this game, just in terms of the way they were playing. That said, things like actually set up for both Heralds really well with good picks from DFM, which we've not seen. They were set up well in advance and weren't walking in blind. Great news. Playing through top with the right kinds of picks, actually, rather than slightly oddball drafts where playing through the wrong lane isn't going to work. All of those things are good signs for DFM. It just wasn't made hard by the Jesters.
I mean, part of the problem was that level 1, right? That happened down bot side, Nymera. It just went horrible, and it almost felt like the Jesters almost didn't have a chance with how their draft went after that, right?
We ragged on Nagi pretty hard for the level 1s, right?
Yeah.
Leona should not be able to Zenith Blade your Caitlyn and blow Cleanse without your Nautilus even turning around for a root. Shouldn't happen. I think that Art is one of our best AD carries in the region. The guy has shown time and time again, mechanically, he can play out teamfights very, very well. He's on a lane-dominant AD carry, but if your Nautilus is going to stand there and watch you get CC'd, while you are the person who's meant to be taking the damage in that lane, there is a problem in that 2v2. However, on the other side of it, for Gang and Utapon to abuse that lane early, there has to be some skill involved, and yeah, it was very good for DFM's bot lane. They really they didn't pull their punches at all.
And then what that meant was the side of Detonation FocusMe could leave the bot lane to their own devices after the first few minutes of the game. Yes, Steel did monitor them for a little bit, but mostly they left them alone. Because where did they play through? Oh, the Shrimp Man himself initialize. Ebby was their playthrough, right?
Yeah, and it has been a little while since we've seen this man on Camille. It looked pretty good, frankly. It was also a very easy setup, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like Camille had a incredible burden of execution on her. It was Hextech Ultimatum, and everybody will pile in on top because you have sent the beacon out. And the bat symbol was in fact a Galio symbol.
The beacons are lit! Camille calls for aid!
Exactly, and Cog was short-circuited a few times in that game. Went 0-8, I think, by the time he was done. And was it an easy game plan? Yes. Did DFM make it look easy? Also, yes. And there was like a few top 2v2s where Bluntly, Set, and Camille outplayed, and also the Galio turning up without really being interrupted by the Renekton, who does have that potential.
Didn't get interrupted. Not really. Didn't.
There was the one time on the poor retreat from DFM after they went a little deep onto Cog by the tier 2. That was about it. Otherwise, Galio got to ult with impunity, and it really showed up that Jesters would rumble in and get knocked up and die.
Yeah, and I mean, gentlemen, the Detonation FocusMe had basically full objective control, full map control, and half of the game timer was actually, it was a stopwatch for DFM, right? It was to see how fast they could actually get this game done.
Yeah, 28 minutes was pretty damn fast.
It's okay.
Yeah. There were probably 2 fights where we go, that got a bit closer than perhaps they were expecting.
Top lane inner and then the dragon fight for Soul.
Yeah, exactly. And that was basically because, particularly the dragon fight, that was Jester's best chance in terms of items. DFM were caught between 2 and 3 items, so they weren't at that really next big point of power. Of course, a BF sword advantage is still an advantage and all that kind of jazz, but
sure.
2 completed items to 2 completed items, that was your best chance. And even then you didn't manage to get it because there was just too much level, too much tankiness, and Camille was untouched in the end.
We've talked a lot about how pink is kind of an issue for Rascal Jester too in terms of his champion pool.
Yep.
Kind of following on from that, you know that you need some disengage in this team. And Kennan's pretty good, but imagine if you put that Renekton top lane, which is better into the Camille and potentially survives a bit longer. I know that, and obviously Cog went 0-8, not a good look for him. You put that kind of top lane, what happens if you have a guy that can play Orianna in the mid lane? Shield up your Caitlyn, give them a bit more kiting, shockwave people out of their combos, make sure you can keep them at arm's length. Lots of low range people. It does feel like Rascal Jesters, they had a hard ask this split in terms of the roster they had, but still, to not pick up certain champions which have been very meta and would work in a lot of situations like this, doesn't feel so good for them.
Katarina wasn't banned. He could have played it. He just chose not to. Right? He just didn't want to play it. So I won't judge. I won't judge. But in all seriousness, congratulations to DFM. 1 back on the board. Hopefully another to follow. But that's going to be probably far more difficult, as we're going to see in our next game, Detonation FocusMe play against Crest Gaming Act. However, we're going to have a short little break over here on the LJL Officially Unofficial. So we're going to go away, but we'll be back before you know it with Crest Gaming Act facing off against Detonation FocusMe.